gum, or even somebody is looking for a breakfast product or a potato chip, your brand is top of mind. Yeah, it's aspirational, it's relevant, it's top of mind, and that was a lot that went into the mental availability. Interestingly, that part doesn't change, right? You still need your brand to resonate with consumers in a way that when they see it, they want to pick it up, right? Because the conversion is important. What has changed is the physical availability. Now, with quick commerce growing the way it has, there is a sea change in terms of you needing to not just be on a shelf, but actually be a very important part of the algorithm by which people go and find products on a quick commerce or a e-commerce channel, right? The thing is, the principles don't change. You know, in the time when modern trade came in, you changed your way of working to say, understand how shoppers behave when they enter the store, where they go, what time they spend, and you modified the way you got your brands physically available. The same principles still apply because you somewhere need to understand what does the shopper do when they get onto onto an app. How many of them go straight into search? How many of them browse? And according to that, you need to, play your spends. You need to play your presence of your brand. Where do you advertise? Where do you just ride on the organic reach that your brand and mental availability your brand already has? So while the world has changed because of quick commerce very quickly, I don't think the fundamentals of what you do as a marketer has actually changed that much. The data that you have is now very, very rich. That's the biggest difference. So what you've got to do is change the ability of your team to actually take on this huge reams of data and analyze it. This is where AI comes in, because naturally with the right partners and the right capability internally, you can analyze this data far better. You know what to do with it and therefore what actions to be taken. And I think what people have always grappled with is the so what. As reams of data comes in, sometimes it's a little overwhelming. I think we in Mars, we take a lot of pride in the fact that we have a very good so what to be done. So what's the action kind of a mindset and capability that we built internally, which I think helps us in the market.
Very rightly said, right? So what to be done and the job to be done, right? Talking about data and personalization, Mrs. Sameer, Mondelez has been at the forefront, right? All of us know of those ads that came in during Diwali, the Kinara, your regular Kirana store rather than like ordering from online to like getting your picture clicked, which was like way before we started talking about the AI, right? So you do have a lot of data personalization, AI, and the quick commerce that you're looking at. Looking back, if we look back, what do you think was the flip point or tipping point for Mondelez to turn towards that, right? To turn towards the precision targeting, not just of the customers, but also from the supplier end, right? And how are the decisions being made today as compared to 3 to 5 years ago?
Thanks, Karishma. And I think at Mondelez, we have been really working hard on transforming data and digital and how do we think about from a consumer lens out there. I think a lot has changed in the 5 years, and Hemant talked about it, Prashant talked about it in the end. There has been a phenomenal amount of fragmentation of media, the way a consumer consumes content, and the quantum of content being consumed has changed a lot in the last 5 or 6 years. Linear TV, connected TV, OTT, YouTube, digital, the whole formats have changed significantly over the last many years. And we're doing different things out here. So let me talk about a few things out here. The first is conventionally only used to talk about reach and frequency. The way we would deploy media. And we realized that that's not the only metric we should be looking at. We are moving to a system where we're saying, is it only about reach or it's also about attentive reach in the end? Is the consumer paying is it an active viewing or is it a passive viewing of what the media you are targeting the consumer? And we realized that there's a huge difference between active viewing and passive viewing and the impact it has basically on the brand imagery and how the brand resonates with the consumer. So there's a whole shift which we're trying to move from an active viewing from a passive viewing to an active viewing and driving more attentive reach over the last few years. I think the second area is the whole in the area of the attention span of the consumers. As the quantum of content which is being consumed has gone up not much more than what we would do earlier, which means that you need to have strong on your brand, you need to have strong brand propositions and some great creative ideas to really stick with exciting, but also the ability to personalize is also increased manifold in the end, and also further with the quick commerce segment of the last few years, which we see. We have a lot of first-party data right now, and a lot of the things which we not deploy digitally is using the learning storm and FPT data in terms of what is the brand affinity, which brands, location, gender. So, in fact, a lot of us spend if you do on digital, we use our own FPT data and try and marry with the data which the digital consumers are, and then we try and deploy a lot of our media. So these are the 2 or 3 things which I talked about in the shift which we have seen in the last 4 or 5 years, given the very dramatically changing media landscape.
Thank you, Mr. Sameer, and I think you said it very well, that personalization and the use of first-party data. And more than personalization, I think we're also shifting to the context-based personalization, not just like simple personalization, but context-based personalization. So taking the topic further ahead, we talked about the data, we talked about the AI. Now let's talk a little bit about the trust in the brands, right? And how do we, because it's food, right? It's something that everybody is consuming. And then there are random influencers who will call the brand out, right? That, okay, you know, what you're consuming is not right. Whether it's rightfully based on facts or no, right? So, Mrs. Shashi, moving to you, and given that health and nutrition is perhaps the category where the trust is most important, right? So, how are you and Danan personalizing the health messaging without, like, you know, over talking about overkilling on the engagement, overkilling on the mass messaging, overkilling on the commercial aspect of it, because that's another thing that puts off the consumers of today. Do you think there's a version of personalization that you plan to use and are using currently, which is building the trust in these categories, trust-sensitive categories? Or do you think that it is becoming exceedingly difficult to do that because every messaging out could be misconstrued, misinterpreted, and sent out?
Thanks, Reshma. I think it's a great question. So if you look at food and nutrition as a segment or as a category, I think the single biggest currency in this segment is trust. And when we talk about trust, why it is so important and why it is so different compared to other categories? Because here if you go wrong, it could impact your health outcome.
Yeah.
And hence, each one of us need to behave and act responsibly. And if I look at Danone, for us, personalizer is not just, or does not start with even product. Leveraging digital tools, science-based screening. In fact, just to give an example, even within India, we had tied up with screening hundreds of thousands of those needs. Then we figure out. So for us, personalizer starts with understanding customer needs or nutritional gaps. And then you identify whether is there any need to intervene. The intervention could be even suggesting them to meet the healthcare professionals, not necessarily our product. So that's one of the important things which you look at. The second thing is sometimes personalizing, or rather many times we also see the reason why people feel a bit scared of personalizing or over personalizing is because personalizing should ideally reduce the commercial bias. Personalizing is not just about trusting product that they buy my product. And that's where, I mean, at least at Danone, we have twin R&I facility. One at Netherlands, Utrecht, and second is a sister facility in France, Saclay. And we mimic or we create